Okay, thanks for everybody for being here today. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of really cool information to share with you guys. All I'll ask is that you take what we talk about today and you share it with other people because I think it's really important topics. And I've got some really great resources for you guys also to take with you. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. So my main things to cover today are digital citizenship and then some resources for you. I want to show you the new Dolphin Media Center website and then where some things are on ClassLink because I get kids all the time who are asking about online books. Their parents want audiobooks and I want to make sure that you all know what the kids know. So and how to access those. If we have time, we'll go over sort of the lesson plans in media for the year and what your kids may come home talking about. Okay, so digital citizenship, Fulton County requires every student to partake in at least 3 digital citizenship lessons per year. And so we start the year every year with those lessons. We do it in August, September, and October. It really takes us all the way until early October. And as the media specialist or the MEDI for Fulton County, I sort of get to decide what those lessons cover. So this year I chose 3 topics, and they were media balance, privacy and personal information online, and cyberbullying. And really that lesson ended up being sort of about bullying and cyberbullying. These conversations I had with the kids, if any of you have had me as a classroom teacher, you'll know that I can be a little unorthodox. And so the lessons, all the content came from Common Sense Media, but we did a lot of discussion in here. And it was awesome because I got to learn so much about the kids and different than as a classroom teacher where you don't always have time to dive into these conversations, but kids were telling me a lot about their like personal time online and what they're doing. And I think it's important that I share all that with you. So here are some of the takeaways that I had from our conversations. So kids do struggle with media balance. And shocker, they think we struggle with it too. In fact, many of the kids were saying that they were better than their parents at this. So it wasn't surprising, but it was also interesting how honest they were. Many Dolphin students have already been asked for private information online. So just to give you an idea, in 2nd through 5th grade, where the kids are really sort of aware of our conversation, what we're talking about, we discussed the difference between personal information and private. And I want to talk to you about that for a second. There was a whole lesson on this because we talked about how we're human, and as humans, we like social interaction. And so personal information is things that we want to get online and share, right? We want to share with people. That's why all the social media sites are so popular, right? We want to share. We want to have this online community. And there is information that's okay to share. And we gave examples of personal information. So we said things like your favorite foods or what you like to do in the afternoon. Like I like to play soccer, or these are my favorite sports heroes and things like that. Those are things that tell people a little bit more about you so that you can connect with them, but it's not private. And then we talked about private information, and there was a lot more than what they thought. So they kind of started off, especially in 5th grade, with things like email addresses and phone numbers and last names. A lot of them knew like credit card information should never be shared. But then the list expanded and they were really shocked that you really shouldn't share your first name. Most of my 4th and 5th graders were online in Fortnite and Minecraft with their own first name. Many of them were sharing what school they go to with people online. Many of them have been asked what city they live in online. Many of them have been asked, your birthday, how old you are. And we talked a lot about that. And I said, they were like, well, why is your birthday bad? And I was like, well, if you tell me that when you were born, I know exactly how old you are, right? And I also know your birthday, and a lot of people use birthdays for passwords. And I said, think about ClassLink, right? In elementary school, we use your birthday as a password. So it's something we shouldn't give. We also talked about parents' names, where parents work, parents' birthdays being private information, things that should not be shared. So the list got really long and they were really shocked. I had a couple kids whose faces when I said first names were like, And I told him, I was like, it's okay, just go home and talk to your parents about it and be honest with them and say, I created this account and now I need to probably like get rid of that account and create a new account with an alias, right? We talked about what an alias was. So that was really interesting. So this one was also a really good moment in class. Many of the students believe the people they are talking to online are kids, but they aren't sure why they think that. So, for example, I said to them, because a lot of the online communication is via chat and stuff, and even then, some of it's on voice, but there are voice changers, right? And I was even giving the example, I was like, I kind of sound like a middle school boy, right? So like, and I told him too, I was like, I've taught 10 and 11-year-olds for 15 years. I know that demographic better than I know adults. Do you think I can't go online and pretend to be you? I sure can, right? And then I would give them some examples of the slang that I could throw out, and they always love that, right? You're not allowed to say bro, Miss Culbertson, but right. And so, and when I ask them that question, their eyes get really big and they're like, I don't really know why. I'm just assuming that they're kids. And that is we talked about that being a dangerous assumption to make, right? Because we don't know that they're kids. And a lot of their rationale was that, well, an adult wouldn't want to be playing this game. And I'll just let that sit for a minute, right? Because first of all, that's not true, right? There's lots of 20-year-old kids who play Fortnite and Minecraft. And so that's not true. So they have a lot of assumptions about the people they're online with that I think we should take time to debunk. And these are great and something that I can create. This would be a really cool idea. Don't let me forget all the people in the room. Is we should take like table starters, that could go home for parents. So like you could put a card on the table about some of this stuff and like talk about it at dinner. I think that would be a really cool idea. Many students reported not wanting to play with a friend again because their friend was on a screen the entire play date. It was one of the top reasons why kids did not like having someone over. They felt like the kids came with their iPads or the kid wanted to be on their iPad the whole time and they didn't want to engage in play. So I also thought that was fascinating for parents. And the last one was kids are easily bored and how can we help? So this was a big thing. It seemed to me when we talked about media balance, kids are turning to digital technology because we're working, we're busy. In this world we live in, it's not safe for them to always go outside and play alone. And we're doing things and they're bored and they don't handle boredom well. But that's not surprising, right? They've never been bored, really, right? They've always had something. And so they don't know what to do. And we'll talk about some of the resources in a second, but one of the things they do when they get bored is they go online. And it's interesting because online can be a way to like calm yourself down, but it can also not be. And a lot of the trends show that people who go online because they're bored end up spending a lot longer online than they thought. And then they end up being more stressed because their productivity decreases. So it's definitely something we have to coach our kids around boredom. And I can provide some resources. There are a lot of great sites that talk about things to do, such as like just having your kid ask like, how can I help? What can I do? Right? Making dinner with your child. Teaching them, if they're older, like how to mix up batter for cookies and then you taking 10 minutes to help them put them in the oven. Right? They even talked about having like a basket or a Tupperware bin of things like an I'm bored bin of like things you could get out and do. There's great drawing programs like Art Hub on YouTube that kids can like look at. So like making a list of like I'm bored, what should I do would be a really cool activity to do as a family. So that was part of it. What came up is the kids were talking about they were bored and they turned to technology because of their boredom. So what are our resources for you guys? I didn't want to take the time to show you all of them today, but I'm going to tell you about them and then I will send it out. And I have some flyers here. So I provided QR codes to sort of 3 different things that we talked about, and they are very different. Common Sense Media's parenting site. If you don't know about Common Sense Media, it is phenomenal. We actually, just to give you a little background, we use Common Sense Media as one of the primary ways of knowing whether books in our collection are appropriate for kids. And we actually don't stock books in our collection, if it says like 11 plus, we consider those media or like media center books for middle schoolers. So I use this site even, parents go in and they rate movies. So some of the things that you can find on this site that are really cool if you follow this QR code, on the landing page, Common Sense Media actually has videos and entire websites devoted to common topics parents would want to cover with their kids. For example, one that's been on there recently is like how to talk to my kids about Ukraine, how to talk to my kids about what's going on in Palestine and Israel, right? How to talk to my kids about social media and what's appropriate for teenagers. And it'll even say like talking to teens. There's like a whole section like talking to teens about, right, digital literacy, digital citizenship. And it's great. They give you like great suggestions. They even give you like word for words, kind of like what you should say and where you should take them. It's also great because you can go out there and look up almost every movie and TV show and find out what the kids say, and the kids give it a rating, an age rating, and then what the parents say, and then what the parent rating is. And it's actually, you would think that it would be shocking, like kids would say, 7 and adults would say 14, but it's really not that off. Most of the time kids say it's like 9 and then parents say like 11. But it's usually in the same vicinity actually, which I think is interesting. And parents will actually leave feedback and they'll say, here's exactly why I said 11. It has like this violent content or the words are just a little too much. So it's a great resource. I can't stress that enough. In fact, I'm currently in college at the University of West Georgia, getting a certificate in media design and instructional technology. And this is one of the tools that they talk about being like as a whole, as a parent, as like a digital citizenship awareness. This is like the site they give. So it's really like well known for that. This is one of my personal favorites. It also was brought to my attention by the University of West Georgia. If you've never watched the Crash Course videos, they are phenomenal. They're short. They're really interesting. And he also does them for kids. If your kids are in middle school or 4th or 5th, he does great Crash Course videos on like historical topics and other stuff. But this is a series of 10 videos, and it is for adults. But if you want to sort of like know everything that there is to know about navigating online, and when you're thinking about being digitally literate as an adult, this is where you should start. There's 10 short videos. They're under 15 minutes each, and it is really eye-opening. So some of the things I wanted to share with you from there, just to kind of get you interested. So in this world of AI technology, and I went to a technology conference last week, and the topic was AI. And while I was there, I just want you to know some things I played with, okay? I was able to easily, in 5 minutes or less, create an image with an old-fashioned photo camera. So an old-fashioned camera is sitting in a room, okay, by itself, like really cool kind of wood paneled background. And I was able to drop in a realistic looking tiny dragon flying in front of the camera in less than 5 minutes. And it looks effortless. And you can't tell that the image is fake. I was also able to put in that I wanted to send a parent communication about a student who had bad behavior. And in 40 seconds, the parent email was written for me. So the conversation at my technology conference was not about, do we use AI? Like, we are going to use it. People are going to be hearing about ChatGPT. They're going to be hearing about AI embedded into programs. They're going to be hearing about Google Bard. Kids are going to be using Google Bard. In fact, with not much work at all, an entire essay could be written for you on any topic in 40 seconds or less. I was able to have an entire lesson plan written on digital citizenship in about 10 seconds by Magic School AI. Rubrics can be created. I mean, Jen can attest, right? So it's really real. And a lot of the conversation around that is the ethics of it. What are the ethics, right? What are we allowing kids to turn in papers like that? You could argue that it helps. So there's a lot of stuff going on with AI now. And I think it's really important that kids understand that images can be created that are fake and that we do, right? Websites can exist out there that look real, that look better than real websites. And in one of the videos, he talks about how he fooled not just, there is an ad when you first pop it up, not just high school kids, not just college kids, but adults were stumped. They shared two websites, one that was the American Association of Pediatric Medicine, and another was like another pediatric doctor site, and it was fake. And adults could not tell the difference. They say that most of the time people go off what looks the best and what looks the most professional. And that's just not, we can't do that anymore, right? With the AI technology. So this really goes into how to fact check yourself. There's a whole one devoted to social media. And I have a couple facts I wanted to share with you on that one, because I thought the social media one was really interesting. 68% of US adults get their news from social media. 50% of that 68 get it from Facebook specifically. And the reality is that for our kids, it's going up. Their primary source for news is social media. So knowing how to navigate that, knowing how social media works, right? How they use algorithms and they give you things that you want, and us being digitally literate enough to teach our kids about it is so important. So that's why I included this QR code. Like, listen to one every morning while you're getting ready until you've watched them all. But we can't teach our kids about digital citizenship if we don't know what it is. So it's super, super important. It's one of the primary things I'm passionate about in the Media Center. We are going to be working on credibility and research, and we're going to be creating AI images in here this year and next so that they understand how easy it is to do, so that then they can understand how easy it is to do, right? And how easy it is for other people to do, that even like bots can create chat messages and things like that. We're going to talk about that a lot in here. And the last one, it's just a great, talking about boredom. If you have no idea where to start with that, it's 50 independent activities for kids to do at home. And it's just a great place to start with ideas. All right, do you guys have any questions before we move on? I know that was a lot, and it's pretty powerful stuff. It's a heavy topic. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything they want to share?
Huh? I might need to be in your class.
It's been really eye-opening for me, I have to say. Yeah, but because I'm getting it from two places, like in the Media Center and also school. And it's really interesting to learn like what is digital literacy, and it talks about like visual versus credibility. As one of my assignments for school, I'll just share this with you because it's kind of a different, right? It's kind of a different category. But I had to meet with a professor or the academic master librarian at Bernal University, and she said the single skill, in her opinion, that's causing college kids to drop out is the fact that they don't know where to find research. They don't know where to get started on finding information online. That's credible. She was like, they have no idea. They don't even know that .com means commerce. They don't even know the difference between a .com and a .org or a .edu. And so they're coming in droves to the library, which is fascinating. But this generation is like hungry for information about that. So yeah, that was really, she was like, the one thing that you can do is start teaching them research early, like go back and start teaching them digital and how to find information for themselves and giving them the time to do that. Okay, so moving to some other things. Okay. I know, I'm a fast talker. Sorry. Okay. All right. So I wanted to share some of these resources with you that you might not know about. So all of these are available on ClassLink. So if you don't have a ClassLink app on your phone or your child's iPad, you might want to get it. These are provided free from Fulton County, and they are awesome. And I want to explain the difference between all three. So ebook licenses are like crazy expensive. It's like $60 for one user to get on and view one book. So it's not feasible for the county to purchase all those licenses. So we contract with outside organizations, Sora being one of them. Sora, the regular Sora is really for 3rd to 12th grade. It goes all the way up. And Sora Junior is pre-K through 2nd. So there's an entirely different platform for our younger learners. The landing pages of these are great. For the younger ones, it opens up with like a whole read aloud section so they can like listen to a book being read aloud. It's awesome for like story time, or if you have kids having trouble falling asleep, you could just play it. They don't necessarily have to watch it, because I'm kind of a big no screens before bed, but you could like set it on the floor and just let them listen to the story, right, if you wanted to, and have them fall asleep to story time. So that's really cool. The other thing I love about this is that these sites all have audiobooks. And I talk about this in class, but I can't say it enough. For some people, reading is just hard, right? It's just hard. And they are, it's you know, it's a mental process, and there's a lot that goes into reading. And for some people, it's just easier to take in that information through like auditory listening. And we need to be aware of that as parents. And that's an okay medium. My philosophy on reading is, if they are reading anything, we're good, right? So graphic novels, yeah. Audiobooks, yeah. Like, because at the end of the day, I know they may not be practicing like their, phonetic spelling of the words or sounding out, but they are getting information if they're listening to it, whether it's us reading or them having like an audiobook. And there are tons of audiobooks on both of these websites that the kids can go in and check out. And then they could just put headphones on and listen to it while they're taking a walk around the neighborhood. Another great boredom buster, right? Go get a book and take a walk and listen to it, right? I can't like tell you how many adults could learn from this, right? You're stuck in traffic, you have an hour commute. Why aren't you listening to audiobooks in the car, right? That's a great way to like de-stress. So this is an awesome site. The kids can go out here and they can like choose a list. They can, and we've kind of shared all this with them. Most of them know how to go out there and like create a wish list. Let me tell you about some of the cons of Sora. It's sort of a pro and a con. Sora is different than Tumble Books in that Sora is a site where you want to get really popular licensed books, which is hard to do, okay? Ebooks, those are the most expensive ones. The problem is that it's shared by the whole county. So just like the public library, if you go out there onto their site, which is Hoopla, you might find that the book you want to borrow is not in stock. So if they go out on here and it has like a blue borrow, it means that it's available now. If it has a black place hold, it means that someone else is reading that licensed book and they have to wait. And it'll tell you how long. And some of them are 6-8 weeks. So it can be really frustrating. I'll tell you right off the bat the ones that usually aren't available, right? Dog Man, Cat Kid, Captain Underpants, all the Helen Ruffin reading bowls right now. I mean, it's the book that I tell the kids all the time, 90% of them all want to read the same book. And those books are the ones that are hard to find, right? So there is that downside. But what is cool about it is it will give you suggestions of other books that are like that. And those topics, opening up our mind to other books that are by similar authors, right, is helpful. So that's where you go to get like all the licensed books. And they have other stuff out there too. They have nonfiction. Tumble Books is K-5. It's also free, available through ClassLink, and it includes more of our our non-popularized, right? But they're still great, and I'll tell you, like, the little kids don't really care. They just want to be read stories. It includes ebooks and audiobooks, and what's really cool about this site is up in the top right of it, if you choose, it says English in a drop-down box. It also has the languages Spanish and French available. And if you click on Spanish, it gives you all books in Spanish. So it doesn't just change the platform language to Spanish, it actually generates all Spanish books. So people reading books in Spanish, which I love. And I wish that they would get some more languages. But that's a really cool feature of Tumble Books. Sora, if you change the language, it just changes the platform language. And they do have a long list of languages, but the books are still in English. So, but I love that about here, because you could get, Spanish books to read to your kids, which is awesome. So that's a really cool site for Tumble Books. You guys have any questions about those? No? How am I doing? Okay. All right. Just a couple other things we're doing in here. And this is one of the things I want to ramp up next year, is more like programs for the kids and challenges to get them reading. We currently have a November tic-tac-toe challenge. It was over there by the resources. And if the kids read 3 of the categories, yep, they can get 10 PBIS points or a free like coloring bookmark. that they can take and do as one of their like boredom busters. So that was sort of our theme for the month. I wanted to just spotlight this real quick, this section on how reading can be done. It can be done as a class. It can be done independently, as a family, with a family member, or with a pet. Honestly, I'll say it one more time. In fact, I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't care how they read. I don't care how they read. I don't care how they read. I don't care what they read. I don't care what they read. I don't care what they read, right? Honestly, it was one of my missions as coming into the Media Center that I wanted to start every class with a 10-minute read aloud. And I think, with the exception of one day, I have done it. And I will tell you, I think that's their favorite time in the Media Center. Even the older kids, like they beg me for books. They are constantly asking me like what I'm going to read next. And I'll tell you, a lot of times I'll read one chapter of a novel to the older kids, and within 30 minutes, every single copy I have of that book is checked out. They just want to be read to. They want to be read to. They want to listen to good books, and then they want to go read them for themselves. That's the thing. Like they really do. That's all we have to do to get them reading is find a good book and get it started, and then they're gone. It's 1, 2, 3 chapters. Get them in, get them past the push until they're into the story, and then they're off. It's really, really cool. And now I have kids coming back into my personal library back there, and they're like, oh, I know you have the City of Ember back there, right? Kids are filling out my request form on the Dalvin Media Center website with books they want in here. It's really, really great. So I just can't stress enough the importance of reading to your kids and letting them read what they want. Okay, so then what are we doing in here other than all these things? Yeah. So you can keep going. This year, our lessons were digital citizenship, and right now, every kid in the school, K through 5, is doing a writing project. The 2nd through 5th graders are doing research on either a science or social studies standard, and then they are creating a digital book, which will be shared with all the parents as soon as the books are finished. December was the goal, but it might be like January or February. The goal is to let them play in the platform. It's called Book Creator. They love it. It has some AI technology included, which they also are like, I'm sure you're not shocked. They love that. So we are working on that right now, and we are using credible resources for research. And we have discussed how difficult it is to find the right information, and how sometimes, here's how I explain it to them, just so you know. We talk about databases, and the kids have no idea what we mean, right? But if we ask them if they've ever heard of Netflix or Prime Video or Disney Plus, every hand is in the air. So what I tell them is that those are just databases for videos. You use them all the time, right? Is every show you want to watch available on Netflix? Nope. Sometimes you have to go from Netflix to Disney Plus, right? So research is the same thing, right? You may not find the information you want in World Book Kids. So you might have to go to Pebble Go, or you might have to go to Britannica. And they are just databases that you bounce between, because they contain images, videos, and articles on academic topics. And every article is not written the same. But it's so important that they know how to do that. That skill alone is worth teaching. And I know as a classroom teacher, we just don't have the time always to give kids that process. So that's what we're doing in here. So I don't really care how long it takes. We're just going through that process together. And then after that, we're going to start and we're going to switch over to STEM. The younger kids in here are going to use Codable. It's a really, really kid-friendly coding program. And the older kids are going to use a combination of 2 programs, one of them being code.org. If you are wondering why we are not going to practice coding in Scratch, it's because Scratch is not as censored as code.org with what the kids are allowed to have access to. So a lot of kids do code in Scratch on their own, but we're not using that in here because of that. And then we will be playing with robots. We have Dash and Dot, we have Spheros, we have Ozobots, and then we have a lot of really great young kid robots called Cubetos. And we're going to be learning the basics of the logic and coding there. And we're even going to be coding with like nonfiction, where kids have to code the robots around true-false statements. So I give you true-false statements from a nonfiction book, and you've got to code the robot to go to true, to false, to true, to false, and that way, like as a pre-reading skill. So it's going to be pretty cool. And then in May, we're going to give the kids what they want, and we're going to let them play with Makerspace in here. because that's what they want. Every day they come in here and they want to like, can we play with Osmo? So that's what we're going to finish the year letting them play with that. So thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. And I really, really appreciate it. We're trying to do a lot of cool stuff in here. Please know this is a place where you are all welcome. We are working on getting the kids a Lego board. If your kids haven't discovered it yet, they probably will. They love coming in here and playing with the Legos. Interesting fact, I have more boys coming in the media center than girls. So I think that's a fun fact about this space and what it's becoming for some of our kids. So know that we also have read aloud books in here. So if you are doing a mystery reader, we have bins of books in the corner and you can come choose from our selection. So that's always available. So and I'm available on email anytime at culbertsonj@fultonschools.org. So thank you guys so much for coming. And I can take questions with anybody. Anybody have questions?
I have a question.
Wait. Somebody has a question. Go ahead.
What was the name of the site that has the series of the 16 videos for navigating online content as an adult? What was the name of that?
Yeah, they're called Crash Course. It's Crash Course and it's navigating digital information. What'd you say? Yeah, I did have a QR code on the slide. Yeah, we can send out. I don't know if we can send out this PowerPoint. Do we?
Attach the PowerPoint presentation in the same place we put that, Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will put the link to the PowerPoint presentation in the same place where we put the video, and then you can come out here and get it. And the QR codes are here. And I also have physical handouts over there, and I'll make sure those are in the front office for parents as they come in. Also, yeah, it is great. I highly recommend them. I've been watching them every morning for the last like 3 weeks, and they're awesome. Yeah, every time I watch one, I learn something, and I'm also kind of freaked out. Yeah.
I have a question going all the way back to the beginning. You spoke about that the things you're covering in here are media balance, privacy and information security, and bullying and cyberbullying. And you gave really great examples of personal and private information. Can you give us some examples of what you're covering in media balance?
Sure. Yeah, and I can talk about the bullying part too.
Yeah.
So media balance for the younger kids was sort of understanding like why is balance important. In fact, we really did that with all the grades. We talked about that a lot in K and 1. Like why do we need to be balanced, right? And then we talked about why should you not be on your device all the time. And interestingly, like K to 5, the one reason they have is it's not good for your eyes. That was like what they came up with all the time. But we talked about how anything that we do, and that's all we do, it's not helpful. And then it sort of led to the conversation with parents. How many of you have been at dinner and, right, have had your parents be engaged on their phone and not with you, and every hand is in the air? And so then then they get it, right? Then they understand the need. And I tell them, and I'll be honest, I tell them, I say, you know, when I was a kid, dating myself, you know, in the 80s, like we didn't even have the internet. So like we didn't grow up in school learning about this. We had other topics that were talked about like this, right? And so we don't know. So in a way, like they are the leaders for us. Like we can learn from them. And so we also talk about that. One of the big things we do is we talk about things that they could be doing instead of being on their device. And so with the little kids, we brainstorm what those things are. With the older kids, we just sort of have a discussion about why that's necessary to do other things. And we do talk about what they could be doing, right? We could have play dates, we could draw, we could read, we could make plays up, you know, we can use our imagination, and we could paint, there's 1,000 things we can do. And they all know that, right? They get it. So that's where we talk about the media balance. I didn't throw this in there, but this was also interesting. I had about 5 or 6 kids in every class, 2 through 5, who admitted to waking up in the middle of the night, stealing a device from a parent, and watching it almost all night. So that was an interesting, like going wherever the iPad or whatever was kept, they know it, they would go get it, and then they would return it, and they were watching it all night long. So we think about the draw of this device, right? And we talk about the dangers of being that engrossed in it from such an early age. And what do you think you'll be like as an adult if you don't find some balance? So the conversations ended up, one of my kids would left and they were like, I feel like this is more of like a counseling lesson. I was like, it's kind of heavy, right? They're heavy topics, especially for the beginning of the year. With the other one, with the cyberbullying, this is one of my favorite conversations that we had with the kids. And we really, it takes it back to just bullying. Like, what's the difference between bullying versus just like, I call it general meanness, right? And we define that. We talk about bystanders and upstanders. And the number one thing that the kids, and I'm sure Ms. Fisher can talk to you about this, the number one thing the kids feel about coming forward with things online or in person is that they don't want to be a snitch. So we talked about the need for an online anonymous forum for kids to post and get, you know, their thoughts out, because there's a lot of conversations about this and people saying like, I would report if I knew, but if I knew it wasn't going to come back to me, right? That's the thing that keeps me from reporting something. We also, and this may be fascinating for a lot of you who have not lived with 10 and 11-year-olds like I have for 15 years. But in my opinion, and I'll be clear in saying that's my opinion as an educator, and in particularly upper grades, most of the bullying, I would be confident to say about 90% of the bullying I see, bullying, not just general meanness, bullying is happening within friend groups. It's not like kid A over here, kid B over here, and they're not friends and someone's just calling names. It's within a friend group. It's within these 5 people that they're friends with. It's name calling. It's picking, they know them well enough to pick on their weaknesses, and they do. It's when they're playing games outside or playing games online, and it's like trash talking that gets negative and targeted. That's what we're seeing. And it has really big impacts. I don't even want you to know when I ask the question, like, how many of you have been upset by a friend this year? Like upset enough to go home and cry. That was, I think, the way I phrased it. Every hand. Every single hand. So it is a problem. And a lot of them, we talk about the fact that one of the things you can do about that is like, you just have to have the conversation, right? If the conversation's with your adult, or if it's with the counselor, or it's another trusted adult at school, that conversation just needs to happen so that we can help you handle that, right? Because sometimes it's just the friends don't even know that it's bothering the kid because the kid doesn't show it, right? And they all attest to that. They're all nodding during this lesson, like, yep, like I've never said a word. Yep, I've never said a word. Nope, I don't even talk to my mom about it. Nope. And we actually talk about that too, because I tell them, I'm like, I know as a kid, it's really hard to go to your parent and say like, people are calling me ugly. That's a hard sentence to get out of your mouth, right? And to the people who love you most, I get teared up like just thinking about it, right? So I get it. Like, I get why they're not coming forward to us, like, because they don't want to know that people are saying that to us. So the conversation it's the heaviest one, actually, the one on bullying and cyberbullying. And a lot of the kids who are having these kind of scary conversations online, or kids are bullying them online, they don't want to tell you because they're afraid you're going to kick them off the platform. They don't want you to stop letting them play Minecraft or Fortnite. And they think that you will, because that's a typical parent response, right? So I think, and one of the things I've tried to live by as an educator for 15 years is how to be the unpredictable parent. And some of you who know me, I think I do that pretty well. It's finding the parental solution that might not be the orthodox parental solution. So how can we be creative in helping our kids be in this environment? Maybe it's, I'm going to play Minecraft with them, right? And we're going to spend that time together, and I'm going to look at the platform and I'm going to see it, and I'm also doing this right together. So that was that conversation. So they were all really, really great. I would love for you guys to attend any of them. You know, it's really cool to see the conversations we have. And as soon as I tell the kids that it's fully anonymous and I won't text any other parents, like, they just start flying. Yeah. So any other questions? Sorry, I'm long-winded. Yeah. So thank you guys so much. Thank you all for joining online. I really appreciate it. All the links are dropped in the chat by our wonderful Ms. Schaefer. Thank you. Yeah, and I guess join me next year. We'll talk more about it.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. This was so great.
Thanks, Liz.